Welcome to Attenuation, a weekly podcast where two friends come together to drink beer, discuss beer styles and trends, and just generally ruminate on the meaning of life, aka beer. If you enjoy your time with us, we invite you to become a weekly listener and subscribe to the podcast. Without further ado, here is this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
Hello!
How are you today, Steven?
Good. I'm so excited to do it every time because I know I'm not going to screw it up.
I'm
missing my cue card, yeah.
Nah, you got it down now. 16 episodes, we finally got the intro down. Okay, so today we are going to be giving our collective tips on attending beer festivals. So we still probably have a lot more to learn, but we've definitely learned a lot so far. So we're going to share what we know.
Yes.
We made some mistakes.
Hey, we're always learning from our mistakes, right?
Okay, but before we get into any of that, we got to do the best part of the podcast, which is drinking beer. It also makes the rest of the podcast better.
Yes.
Okay, so today I'm going to introduce my beer and do some nose notes, and then I'll pass it over to Steven. I have, surprise, surprise, a Russian Imperial. This is Deth by Cherries from Revolution Brewing in Chicago, Illinois. And I believe this is on the side here, they basically say they take unfermented tart cherries and they add them to their Deth's Tar barrel-aged Imperial Stout. So it's a cherry version of that, and then they renamed it Deth by Cherries. So I'm very excited about this. I love stouts. I love barrel-aged stouts. I love cherries. So this is pouring jet black with a very, very thick brown head, and it smells amazing.
Oh, your face just lit up when you put your nose in that.
So it has like all of the kind of smells you would expect from a stout. So, chocolate, definitely getting like bourbon and cherries and like really jammy cherry, and then getting just kind of like dark fruits generally. It smells like fudge. It smells like a cherry truffle or like a cherry cordial. Okay, I think I made an excellent choice. I'm going to start tasting this while you introduce your beer.
Dang, dude, you are geeking out over there. Okay, so I am drinking a beer that I got from a buddy at work. We'll call him DC. That's why I told him I'd call him DC, so I wouldn't actually use his full name on the podcast.
That's a good code name. I like it.
But he very generously picked me up this beer. It is from Turning Point Brewing in Bedford, Texas. It is called Remedial Chaos Theory. It is a triple IPA, a hazy triple IPA, I believe. 10.2% alcohol. Brewed with YT, Strata, and Sabro hops. So 3 different kinds of hops. See how they come out and express themselves in this beer. It's pouring this nice apricot color. Really nice thick head. Effervescent, but has some good retaining hold on the head. Nose notes of stone fruit, like apricot, bubblegum, a little bit of coconut, sort of like a creamy, like coconut vanilla kind of creaminess to the aroma. All right, I'm gonna dive in. What are you tasting over there?
I really like this one so far.
Surprise.
Yeah, no surprise there. It starts off with it's dark fruit, maybe like raisin, and then there's cherry right up front. It's very creamy and chocolate. So it's like a creamy chocolate development, and then you get boozy bourbon, and you kind of get cherry throughout. So it's almost like bourbon soaked cherry. And then there's a little burst of alcohol. So this is 13.1%. It doesn't really show too much alcohol, except right before the finish, there's kind of like a flash of that hot alcohol, which isn't my favorite. I kind of like it when they blend that flavor maybe a little bit better, but it's not bad. And then the finish is kind of like chocolate but less sweet, maybe like brewer's chocolate. So overall, definitely a thumbs up for me. I really like this. I'll give maybe a little bit more impressions as it warms up, but so far, definitely so good. How are you enjoying yours?
This is very good. And I should bust open like a King Stew and put it side by side or something because
Oh, it's that good. You want to give it a shot at the king.
yeah. I mean, King Stew's a double IPA and this is a triple, but
Yeah.
this is really good. Really good, like sweet citrus. It's sweeter. I mean, it's a triple IPA, so it's gonna be sort of maltier and sweeter with also the higher alcohol. That's how it's gonna balance out with the hops. But it is sweet. It is surprisingly sweet. But like a sweet citrus, pine, with a pithy grapefruit. There's a really nice dry hop bitterness at the end, and that coconut creaminess is coming through too. I don't know if that's I'm assuming that's the Sabro hop, which is known to have some coconut flavors. But this is awesome.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, really well balanced between sweetness, maltiness, hoppiness, and then the fruit flavors of the hops. And then like the bitterness, I mean, again, for a triple IPA, this is a hazy triple IPA, so the bitterness is going to be a little bit lower. And that comes through. The bitterness is really tolerable, and there is zero alcohol. I mean, zero. For a 10% beer, pretty impressive.
Yeah, see, that's what I like. I love when a beer has really high ABV and you just can't tell because it's like magic to me. I don't know how they do that.
So awesome.
So definitely a thumbs up on that one.
Thumbs up for sure.
Okay, cool. So this is a good day. We got 2 thumbs up.
And Turning Point is in Texas, so
Oh, nice.
I'm gonna start seeking out some more of their beers.
Yeah, that's always nice if you find something local that you can actually find in the store. That would be ideal.
And another awesome thing is that this my friend actually had this filled at a restaurant called the Growler Bar. They have a very extensive tap list, but what's really, really cool and solves a big problem that I hate about growlers is that they have 16-ounce growlers.
Oh, are you serious?
And it's bomb. It's so awesome.
Because crawlers are usually 32.
Yeah.
Yeah, 16.
Just a lot of beer to open at once. Yeah.
I got to become friends with DC.
He's a good friend to have. And he finally likes sours. He used to laugh at me for drinking sours, and now he loves them. So
corruption continues.
He listens to the podcast, so.
Does he like stouts, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
He
likes it all. I know, right?
All right, nice. So 2 thumbs up. Okay, I have some cool beer news. It says that for 2021, U.S. hop acreage hit an all-time high, topping 60,000 acres. And what was interesting, well, this is a report from USDA, National Agricultural Statistics Service. But what was even more interesting to me is the top 5 varietals planted were Citra, Mosaic, CTZ, Cascade, and Simcoe, which seems about right. Those are like 5 very popular hops right now.
Yeah, I would say Galaxy would be the other one.
Okay, yeah.
That I see a lot. But yeah, I mean, most of your hops are being grown up in the Pacific Northwest, and definitely Cascade and Citra are like kings up there.
So it said these 5 varietals account for 53% of total U.S. acreage. So that's the majority of what's being grown in the U.S. at least. So pretty interesting. Because I know we had talked in the previous episode just about like hop shortages and like, stuff like that, but they are planting it. Growing as possible.
Yeah, I think the hop shortage definitely peaked. I want to say like 08, 09, maybe 2010 was still an issue. And that was when the hop harvest hadn't caught up with the like massive IPAs that everybody was making.
And the explosion of new breweries too, I feel.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So now it's probably catching up, which is good. It's awesome.
Yeah, that is good. Plenty of hops for people to make good beer with, which is what we like.
Yeah, plenty of good hops too.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we can jump into the main topic and give you kind of like everything we've learned, kind of the mistakes we made, and some of the tips that I wouldn't have really figured out until we've been to a bunch of beer festivals. So we can share those with you. And I guess I'll start. So number one thing is, and obviously this is, I guess I should caveat this with, it really depends on where you're going and how much you're going to have to plan. So, for example, I've gone to actually it's gone, but there was a really good local brew fest in my hometown that I went to for probably 5 or 6 years in a row before they just never brought it back. So it was linked to a local restaurant slash brewery, and that restaurant went under. And then that was the end of that beer fest. But
Oh, this is the one that sued work?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was very convenient because it was within walking distance. So my first tip is accommodations. So obviously, like, this is the most ideal situation, actually, because it covers our first 2 points, which is accommodations and transportation. So accommodations was just my house, and transportation was just my feet. So it was
Right.
great. And then it actually gets into like one of the last topics we're going to bring up, but I'll save it for that. But kind of, focusing on smaller versus larger festivals. But yeah, for accommodations, if you're going to somewhere where you're traveling to go, you're going to want to figure that out. And I always find it's best and this is like obviously ideal situation. Maybe you don't have this much time to take off work, or you're not down to throw like this much money at a hotel. But if you can stay in a hotel close to the location, and that's gonna be your ideal situation. Because historically, and I know Steven and I have kind of played games with this a little bit.
Yeah, well, like the first year we did the beer festival in Colorado, we stayed like at a cheap hotel, and it was far away, like outside of like downtown. And then we had to Uber in to the festival, which was fine. It was it's kind of a trade-off. Like it was a shorter ride from the airport to the hotel. We still had a little ways to go from the hotel to the beer festival, so we Ubered in, but then that means you got to Uber out. And when the beer festival gets out, everyone is trying to find an Uber, and the price is just stupid high.
I feel like the surge price was like 5x what we paid.
Oh, it was crazy.
To go
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were like, well, we'll just kind of hang out, and then we ended up doing that. I guess this was the second year. It took us 3 years to learn that, because the second year we were still kind of far away.
We got like slightly closer. I don't know what we were thinking.
Yeah, and then when we were Ubering out, we did that like Uber carpool thing. Remember where we had to do like pick up multiple people on the way, because it was like I was like this is the cheapest option. Like I'm not gonna pay that stupid price. And so we had to walk to some place, and then they picked us up, and then we had to like pick up like multiple different parties on our way and drop off multiple parties. I was like, this is the worst.
It was so awkward. Like Uber is already so awkward. So like this is pre-COVID, right? So it's different now. I guess you sit in the back, but I don't know. We've covered this in previous episodes, but I'm the people talker. So I usually like sit in front and like try to talk to the driver, just like ask them about their life while Steven gets to chill in the back. But but this was like magnified, because not only were we with the driver, which is already sort of awkward, but like random groups of people are getting in the car. And I feel like we picked up and dropped off like multiple people before we even made it to our destination.
Yeah, that's what we did. It was like, so you had like multiple awkward situations in one Uber ride. It's like the worst. So don't do that.
Yeah, so we finally figured out, like, yeah, it's more expensive to stay in the hotel that's very close. But I feel like overall,
you save money
way less expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, you save money with the Uber ride, and you're like there, and you can just walk back, and it's just so nice when you can just walk back to your hotel. Like there's just no chance of anything bad happening.
Yeah, so I think that's our first point of advice, is like, if you can swing it, it's so nice. And like I think a lot of people maybe do try to do like a beer festival and then just go home like same day, depending on how close they are to it. But if it's any distance away and you can swing a night in a hotel, you will really enjoy yourself a lot more when you know you're not driving, for one thing, especially really important, and two, like you don't need to make it home, like you're just going back across the street. I feel, at least for me, like my enjoyment of the festival is like multiplied so much higher, just because I'm like not worried about any of the logistics of afterwards.
Right. Totally.
And I'll even do that. So I've done that many times and Stephen and I do that. Like when we went to Seattle, but yeah, we went to 21st Amendment and Drake's in the Bay Area. And we just basically, we drive down, check into a hotel that's close, Uber over to the brewery, knock out both those breweries, get dinner, and then Uber back to the hotel, pass out, and drive back the next day. So you're basically just using that hotel to have a night to sleep off your adventure and have a base of operations to Uber back and forth from.
Yeah, and you don't have to feel like nobody in the party has to feel like they can't drink or, they have to be a DD or something. So.
Exactly. It's definitely like maximum enjoyment for the whole group.
I like it. That's a good one. Yeah, it's funny it took us the third year to finally figure it out, but it was so much better.
Yeah, it was way better. Because we were deep that first year. I feel like we were like a 45-minute drive away.
No, it was far. We were closer the second year, but it wasn't that much better.
It didn't make any difference.
I think sometimes when I look at Google Maps too, I'm like, oh, that's close, but like, is it really?
It's like a very optimistic.
If you zoom out the map far enough, California and New York look really close. But like a city you don't know, you're like, oh yeah, that seems close, right? And then
you're not considering like traffic and all that stuff. Yeah.
So.
Very cool. So that's kind of covers accommodations, and then our second topic was like transportation, and just Uber, Lyft, like it's the way to go these days, or whatever public transportation. I know in Seattle we took the light rail for part of the way, but you just don't really want to worry about driving, and it's just so much safer for everyone involved if you're not. So.
And a lot of these beer festivals do have like a designated driver ticket as well, which is like a super cheap ticket if not free. And basically you just have a wristband that means that you're a DD, you're not drinking, and you can usually like they'll have a designated area where you can have like free sodas and craft sodas and stuff. So anyway, if you have someone who like really just doesn't drink but they enjoy the company and they want to be your DD, that's always an option too.
And if you are that person and you need a new friend, be happy to be friends with you.
Not all heroes wear capes, okay?
All right, so point 3 is having a plan. There's multiple aspects to this.
Definitely.
I'll let Stephen cover the first one.
What's the first one?
The first one is multiple days, and I think you can dovetail it into hydrating and pacing.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what festival you're going to, I mean, from my experience of the Great American Beer Festival, it's multiple days, and if you have tickets to go to multiple sessions, that's, I think, the best case scenario, because you get to really pace yourself and don't feel like you have to get it all done in one session, which is just a good feeling. That first year, I think it was partially because we were so excited to be there, and we had this list of places and breweries wanted to get to, and you don't realize like, okay, I have 4 hours, like that's a long time. I'm sure I'll get around to all these, but you think in your head like, I won't be able to do it. I got to run from place to place, and so we were kind of doing that. Like, I really think we ran to Cigar City, right? Like,
yeah, we were out of control.
But we were like two kids in a candy store, and like that was very, very early on in my beer drinking too. So I just wasn't used to drinking that much at one time and drinking so many different kinds of beer at one time. And so at least having a plan from the standing point of, we have this amount of time, we have this many breweries, like these are our must hit breweries. We can do it. We can take our time. You can plan it out a little bit and know that, with a little bit more perspective on how much time you have. And, if you have a couple of days, know that if you miss it the first day, you can hit it the next day, that kind of thing. So.
Well, and the other thing, like, we didn't realize, I should have kind of known this from even like that local Brewfest, that's probably one of the first ones I ever went to, is a lot of times there's going to be stuff you want to try, but it's going to have like limited availability. So they might only be pouring it like a certain time on a certain day, or they're pouring it but they have a very limited amount of it, and once it's gone, it's gone. That's something, like, if you can get details about that, we eventually learned we had to do. Because I know the first year we went, I had like a long list of stuff I wanted to try, but I didn't realize, like, oh, you can't just get this anytime you want. They pour this on Saturday at 7 p.m. So you need to be there. You need to be at that booth at 6:45 getting in line because it's going to be gone by like 7:15. So that was just something like that we had no idea. We got caught really off guard the first year, but if you can try to figure out, like, and usually they'll post this information, we just had no idea. But if you want to try something that's pretty special, there's probably a time when they're pouring it, so you kind of have to make, and obviously you don't want to like over plan, because I don't know, that might drain the fun out of it, but it's good if you have like 2 or 3 things that are really important to you to know, like, okay, we need to be here at 6:45 to get this thing, and then we can be the next hour, we can kind of do whatever we want, but then you know, the next thing is pouring at 8, so we got to be there. So just making a plan, and then, you know, it's going to vary from person to person. Plan as little as or as much as you want. I know my wife is like the ultimate planner. And like, so she has to have like every minute planned, and then, but I know for some people that's like the death of a vacation, is over planning, because they feel constricted and they have no freedom. So, you know, your mileage may vary on how much you want to plan, but
well, it's funny too, because that first year, I know like you went off the top 250 list a lot, trying to find like what you might want to try. For me, the only thing I knew that I liked for sure was Gozas. So I literally just searched Goza, because for the Great American Beer Festival, usually like 2 to 3 days before the festival, they will finally post in their app all the breweries and the beers that are going to be poured, or at least most of them. You can like search by name or style and stuff. So I would just searched by Goza and just was like, okay, I want to try all of these. So anyway, it's not always planned by what beer, like what brewery you want to taste, but maybe a style. You know, you can base it on different things.
yeah, that's a good point. I remember that you had like a I want to try every Goza hit list. That's really funny.
And be a little flexible too, because
yes, so that's one of our other points. This is a very, well, I'm going to actually combine this with another one too that's controversial, but, and you can elaborate on this, Stephen, but when you're at a big beer festival, or even a small one, like the one I used to go to, there was only like 12 breweries there, but it's a very low risk to try a new style, even if you don't like it, at a beer festival, because you're going to have access to so many different styles, and there's not really a cost. I mean, unless they only give you a certain amount of tastes, which I haven't really been to a beer festival like that. Mm-mm. Generally, they're going to let you try anything you want, so that's a really good time to just try stuff. And then, to my very controversial topic, is if you don't like something and you're at a beer festival, pour it out. There usually will be bins that you can pour beer out, and I know it really feels like a sin to pour something out. It always
feels wrong.
It feels so wrong. But you know what? The net effect on the universe at large is basically zero. And if you don't like something, don't force yourself to drink it because you don't want to pour it out. Because a couple things are going to happen. One, you really have like a sober window when you're at a beer festival that is very limited. Because no matter how hard you try, you're probably going to feel pretty tipsy. And then I feel like when you get into that pretty tipsy point, your ability to appreciate beer is diminished. So if you're drinking stuff you don't like, you're just kind of wasting that window. You're kind of just wasting your time on something you don't like. So I think the first year I was kind of finishing everything, but eventually you just transcend that and you just realize, like, you know what, it's not going to hurt their feelings. Like, if you don't like style, you don't like a style. Just pour it out, and that gives you more time to try other things. So
yeah, and like you said, well, like you sort of alluded to, you burn out your palate. Mm-hmm. And you're going to burn out your palate anyway. Like, might as well burn it out on trying all the good things and not wasting it on the bad. Yeah. Like, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And if you feel real self-conscious about it, they usually have pour-out stations everywhere. So just walk away from the booth and just don't let the people see you do it.
Exactly. I think Yeah, I mean, at the beer festival, so many of the booths are being run by volunteers that they really don't care. But yeah, definitely the ones that have like people from the brewery there, just walk away. Just pour out bins at like every single booth. So just pour it out
Yep. And
somewhere
don't feel
else.
bad.
Just walk away. Yeah, seriously.
Totally.
Sometimes too, we would even like get a pour of something, especially if the line was long. We would each get a pour of something different, and then we would try each other's.
Oh, yeah. That's actually a really good tip that I didn't even write down. Yeah, we would do that. So if you get in a line that's very long, that's going to like take 10 minutes to get through, and you're with multiple people, just coordinate what you guys are going to get, and then you can try way more things that way. So yeah, we would do that a lot in the longer lines.
So and it's good too. Like if you grab a stout, you're like, I'm like, I can just try it. I'll try it.
Yeah.
I don't want it, but you're gonna finish it.
But then I finish it. Yeah. That's good advice.
Yeah.
So we're doing these totally out of order, but I feel like they're flowing into each other. Yeah. So this is something I wanted to mention. If you see a long line for something, ask the people on the line what they're waiting for, because it's probably something good, but two, it might be something that's not worth waiting for. So for an example, when we were at the beer festival, I don't know what year it was.
There was this first year.
Was it the first year? There was this massive line, and we're like, oh, what are they pouring? They must be pouring something good. So we asked, like, oh, what are you guys waiting for? And they're like, oh, this is for, like, Russian River or whatever. And I think we just both died laughing at the same time. And we're like, oh, we live, like, an hour and a half from Russian River. We're not waiting in this line.
Yeah, we're good.
Like, yeah. But you can basically kind of gauge, like, if something exciting is happening on how long the line might be. Or if maybe they're going to open, like, within 10 minutes, something that they only have a limited supply of. That might be your opportunity to get in line.
If you think about it, like there's people there that like that's their one chance to drink Pliny the Elder ever, maybe. So like it's definitely warranted for a long line, but sometimes you don't necessarily have to stay.
Yeah, if it's your local brewery and you can get it. Like I think we were in the opposite situation. I know we waited pretty long, or I did at least, to drink Bell's Two Hearted. And I'm sure there's a huge swath of the country that's like, oh, I don't have to wait for that. Like I can get it in the grocery store, but I can't. So.
Yep. And then there was I don't know if it was this last year or the last time we went, there was this really long line, and I was like, hey, what is this for? And the guy was like, oh, it's Jay Wakefield. And I was like, Jay Wakefield? Like, I had never heard of it. And I was one of those people that was like, I've heard of everything. Like, how have I not heard of this place? And their beers were awesome.
So you discovered something new.
Yeah. And obviously there were plenty of people who knew about them and how good they were, but I had no idea. So
yeah, you can learn a ton of stuff by just talking to people there. And the nice thing is, if you're at a beer festival, most of the people there are like super weird beer nerds like you, so you'll probably get along with most of them. But you know what? Here's a good tip that I accidentally learned. We were trying, gosh, I can't remember what it was, but it was the Toppling Goliath Stout. And I asked
Morning Delight or whatever.
Morning Delight, that's it. And so I asked because the individuals there were actually from Toppling Goliath, and I don't know why I thought to ask this, but I asked them like, hey, what should I try? What would you try if you were here? And of course, they had like some great suggestion of like, oh, you like stouts? Like, okay, and it was like right down the aisle. They were like, go try this. Like, not many people know about it, but it's amazing. So you can get some really good tips like that.
I like that.
Yeah, especially from people in the business. Like, they're going to know, like, the best stuff that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that I wrote down was talk to people / make friends. And it's so funny because I hate doing that. But, like, the few experience I've had where I actually, like, just started talking, especially you get in these long lines, and like, what are you going to do other than just talk to the people around you? And what's really cool is that, like, you're right. Everyone there is there for the same reason, like they love beer, and you can just talk beer. You don't have to talk, and you have a common interest for sure. And so it's just so fun because, and I think we've kind of experienced the gamut, right? So the first year at the Great American Beer Festival, I mean, I certainly didn't know anything. I knew very little. And then, by the third year, I knew a ton. And so it was kind of fun to be like on opposite sides of conversations, like one being a newbie, not knowing anything and learning stuff, and then also being able later to like educate people, or somebody asked me a question and I know the answer to that I would never have known the answer before. So it's just cool to have those conversations and interactions with people close to you. And then there are other interactions where, like, I was wearing the brewery t-shirt from one of the breweries, and it was just this awesome interaction of like, oh, he's wearing our shirt, that's awesome.
That's great.
Or drinking that sour at Adroit Theory and geeking with the breweries over that and being like, this sour is incredible,
and having them pour it like 3 or 4 more times for us.
Yeah, and they're just laughing at us because we just keep coming back. Yep. Those are the fun interactions and conversations and friendships you can make. Like, I mean, not lasting friendships, but just fun acquaintances you can make over that common interest, which is the love of beer.
Yeah, and you make those like very short, very fast friendships. It's really fun. I actually remember my dad used to go with me to that smaller beer festival at our local, and they had Old Stock Ale. It's from North Coast, I think, makes that, and that's like his favorite beer, and not a lot of people like that. So he had kept going back for it over and over, and we went like near the end. They were just pouring it like out of bottles. They had just had some bottles of it, and we went near the end of the festival, and he's like, I know you really like this, so here you go. And he's like slipping the unopened bottles to my dad. He's like, put these in your pocket, put these in your pocket. It was so funny. He's like, we gotta get rid of them.
Amazing.
So you do make those like very quick friendships at a beer festival like that. It's really fun.
Well, I remember we went to the Sac Brew Fest one year, and Anderson Valley was there, and I was like so excited because they had a couple of their gozes on tap, and so I was just like standing there, just kept drinking that over and over again and talking to the people, and I was like, I need to come up there and like visit you guys, and I was like, but you guys are in the middle of nowhere. Like, where do I stay? And they were just like, well, you can camp. We have lots of campsites around. And I was like, yeah, no. We just had it was just a fun conversation of like, yeah, I think I'm going to find a hotel like somewhere close.
Yeah, I don't know if I want
to. But just great interactions like that.
That's
fun.
Awesome. All right, cool. Let's see. Oh, an important one we need to cover is food. So generally and during. So, well, one, you kind of want to dial in where you're going to eat right beforehand and right after, because you really want to have like a full stomach, especially if you're going to be trying a bunch of beer. So you can do that, and that can be challenging. So depending on, so this is unrelated, but, and I'm going to out myself as a nerd, but I went to BlizzCon for the first time a couple of years ago, and they don't allow any food in the, there's no food allowed in the Anaheim Convention Center. And there's not really a lot of food options. So, but they have like 8 food trucks that pull up. But what I didn't realize is like everyone at the con will try to go to those 8 food trucks. So you're literally going to waste like 2 hours waiting to get lunch. So all the veterans knew, like, oh yeah, don't mess with those food trucks. Like, they had all these like super elaborate plans where like they'd be staying in a hotel that was only like a 10-minute walk, and they had like pre-ordered a pizza to their hotel room, or like, you know, all this crazy stuff where they're like, oh yeah, we just walk back to our hotel, get the pizza we ordered, eat that, and we're back in the convention in like, 30 minutes. And meanwhile, you're in this like endless line at a food truck.
Sucks.
So, I mean, some of that stuff you're never going to be able to solve. It's just experience is going to teach you like how to pull that off, and talking to other people is going to teach you how to pull that off. But if you can figure out your food accommodations. And then the second thing, and I'll let Stephen cover some of this because his wife was instrumental in solving this problem for us, was the first year everyone had like a pretzel necklace. What is up with these pretzel necklaces?
Yeah, well, I knew that like for the Great American Beer Festival, like reading the rules, the only food they allowed you to bring in was basically anything you had on your necklace. So you had to have this necklace, and I like looked up online, and there were pictures of these people with like elaborate things like full bags of like Doritos strung onto a necklace and stuff. Like, these are just ridiculous things. And I was just like looking at it, I was like, I'm not one of those people, you know, because like some people like dress up in costume for the beer fest. Like, people go crazy, and I'm just not one of those people. And so I was like, I don't think I need a beer neck, like a pretzel necklace. Like, this is just one of those things people do, and it just they can get carried away with it and be creative with it or whatever. But I just don't think it's for me. Well,
And the first year I was in the same boat. I was like, dude, that is so stupid. And then smash cut to year
like,
2.
we knew,
Yeah.
we were sure that we were better than the pretzel necklace. Smash cut to me barfing on top of the mountain when we were trying to hike.
So we were so wrong about the pretzel necklace.
Yeah, and they have food and food trucks and stuff inside there, and like I think we did probably order food at some point, but it's just not enough, you know. Like, you need that continuous absorption of alcohol.
So yeah. So was it the second year that your wife made us amazing?
Yeah, so the second and third years, we had pretzel necklaces both time. Yeah, and my wife was just insistent that we do it. She was like, I think it'll be better for you, so she made them for us, and I like had to try and keep them safe through the flight.
Yeah, because they're kind of fragile, so you gotta like, carefully transport them. But they're worth it on so many levels. One, they keep you, eating throughout, which really will help with your endurance through the beer festival. But two, you have like a built-in palate cleanser, like right around your neck.
Yeah, you got these little salty pretzels that kind of cleanse your palate. It's nice.
Yeah, because when you're drinking like a barrel-aged stout, and then the next thing you want to drink is like a Goza, it's good to cleanse the palate a little bit. But yeah, then that also gets us into hydrating and pacing. So we did a terrible job of hydrating the first year, but most beer festivals, I think, everyone I've ever been to has like a hydration station, and you just have to get into the habit of like every third beer I try, I need to go drink water, and you need to do that the whole time. Because it's the only way you're going to survive.
Yeah.
So we got much better. We got much better second and third. I think between the two of us, we would, say like, okay, pause. Like, we're going to go drink water.
Yeah, and that's a good palate cleanse too.
Yeah,
also.
and that also works as a great palate cleanser. But yeah, generally there'll be water available, and just drink as much of it as you can. You'll thank yourself the next day.
Yeah, you'll pee like 10 times during the festival. Try to coordinate your pee breaks.
Yeah, there you go.
I also wrote down be weird.
You didn't. We didn't talk about this in the pre-talk.
Yeah.
What does be weird?
I think my point was that, well, it kind of plays into the pretzel necklace thing. Like, we thought we were too cool for school. Like, we were too cool for that, and it was weird. Like, we didn't need to do that. So like, don't be afraid to be weird. Like, it's okay. Like, there's a reason that they tell you to bring a pretzel necklace. Like, for good reason, and you can be creative with it and string it around, or you can just do something like nobody cares. If it's just regular pretzels on a necklace, like, nobody cares. Like, it has a purpose. You can be like, people will be creative with it and go crazy with it, and they'll dress up in costumes and all this stuff, and like, if that's them, that's cool. But like, you can just be practical too and say like, yeah, I need these pretzels to like, keep me fed during the thing. So like, it's okay to be weird. It's okay to like to not be cool, because nobody cares.
That's cool.
And it's like, this is life advice here, okay?
It is wider life advice.
Yeah. This podcast hits a bunch of different notes, okay? Sit down with us here. Sit down with us. Let's get real.
We'll teach you how to be cool and not be cool.
But also, again, like, I mean, especially at the Great American Beer Festival, like, there's like karaoke, and like there's all these other like side activities, and we haven't really done a whole lot of them, if any at all. And there's like bands playing. Like, if you want to like sit and listen to a band, or they have cornhole, like if you want to play cornhole, like you can. I mean, we're beer nerds, so we're like running from place to place and trying to like try as much stuff. But like I know there's like a certain percentage of the crowd that like, especially if you go there, like the Friday night is a little bit more like rowdier and just locals coming to the beer festival and just hanging out and having fun. So anyway, just do the festival how you want to do it. And for some people, that's just like hanging out and trying a few different cool beers. And for others, it's like trying to get the best of the best. And however you're doing it, like just, yeah, that's us. But however you're doing it, like enjoy it. And again, like talk to people and be weird. Like I'm not one to talk to people, and it's out of my comfort zone. But I also enjoyed all the experience I had talking to people, because
that actually makes a lot of sense. You should, and I do some other cons, like I've been to BlizzCon and Comic-Con and stuff like that. And generally what you'll find, even if you're introverted, like when you're at a con like that, you're probably going to get along with most of the people there. So don't be afraid to lean into it, because you've already pre-selected yourself as having a common interest. So at minimum, you're going to be able to talk to almost anybody there about that common interest. And once you have that, you know, it can dovetail into other things, or not. You just talk about the thing that's safe to talk about. So yeah, I agree with you. Be weird and just kind of lean into it. And kind of like we were resisting if you see something that everyone's doing, like so many people have the pretzel necklaces, like there's a reason everyone's doing that. Like don't think you're smarter than everybody.
Right.
So
yeah, there's usually a reason. And again, there's usually a reason the line is long, because the beers are usually good there. So
yeah, so you can learn a lot by not thinking you're smarter than everybody, which is a lesson Steven and I me especially, could learn.
Because we've certainly gone to some breweries that had no lines, and we're like,
yes.
Oh, this is why they don't have a line.
Yes.
Like, ooh, this is not good.
Yes, there can be bad beer at beer festivals as well as good beer.
Surprisingly bad beer.
Like, well, not everyone's doing well.
Like,
yeah.
Wow, you shipped this across the country.
Yikes.
But it's fun. It is, I think, one of the most fun things is trying to figure out, like, because any one of those breweries with short lines could be the brewery with a long line the next year. You know, you just never know.
That is true.
So it is also fun to go to some of the short lines and be like, oh, you guys are doing something good here. Maybe getting something before anybody else knows it's good. So.
Getting it on the ground floor, yeah. Trying something before it's like very popular. But most of that stuff is not good, so no.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so I think we covered everything except our last topic was kind of talking about maybe you've been enjoying smaller, more local festivals now. Yeah,
and I think this is kind of a trend I've been seeing, because certainly over the few years we went to the Great American Beer Festival, we started to see some breweries, like Toppling Goliath was there the first year and they weren't there the next 2 years. There were just some breweries that I felt like, why aren't they ever here? Why aren't they here? And I started to kind of look into it and realize that it is very expensive for breweries to go to that festival. It's just a lot of logistics. If you send people, it's even more expensive. And it's just restrictive, I think, to some breweries. And I think some breweries they just don't do it. Like, they just don't want to do that sort of national scale kind of thing. Like, they just want to keep it more local. So what I'm seeing is a few more of these, like, invitational brewfests. Weldworks does one. Firestone Walker does an invitational. J. Wakefield, Florida, they do one. So there are these breweries that have a ton of clout, and they start doing these invitationals where they kind of handpick which breweries they want at their festival. And they're much smaller and they're more exclusive. But if you can go to those, the Great American Beer Festival is kind of like, it's such a wide net, and you're going to, like we've mentioned here, you're going to get some of the best and you're going to get some of the worst. But like, when you go to some of these festivals, these smaller ones where they've handpicked which breweries are there, it's all going to be good. Like, hands down, it is all going to be good, and they're going to be pouring their best stuff. But that aside, the invitationals aside, I think in general, even just the local brew fest. So I think these days most places are going to have something. Most places where you live, you're going to have a local beer festival. Check it out, because then you're going to get to try. I live in the Austin area. We have a beer festival coming up in October, which is the Texas Craft Beer Festival. It's a really good chance for me to be able to taste all of the Austin area breweries, because there's one popping up every other weekend. So there's 60 or 70, and it's so hard to visit them all. So to be able to go to one beer festival and try all those local breweries, I have access to all those breweries at any time I want, technically. But being able to get them all in one spot in one day is really cool. So just the local versus the national scale, you're going to end up getting some of those breweries that just don't have the means to travel to the beer festival, but they'll certainly do the local ones. So.
Well, and the beauty of going to the local beer fest is if you find something you love, you'll probably also be able to buy it locally, which is really cool. Exactly. And yeah, like that. The other thing that was really cool is when we went to those smaller local beer fests, like the one at Sudwork and some of the Sacramento area ones. When it's smaller like that, sometimes you can actually try every beer there. If they're only pouring 50 things and you're not afraid to pour stuff out if you don't like it, you can actually try the whole festival, which is actually pretty cool, which you will never ever do at a larger festival. You'll die before you you'll die of alcohol poisoning before you would ever try everything at your American Beer Festival. So there's definitely benefits. I can see that. And if you make one of those friendships at your local brewery, might actually be someone that you could continue to hang out with in the future.
Yeah. Have you done the one in Woodland?
I have not yet, so I really should. Because I know they shut down all of the downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you can.
I feel like one year it was super hot.
So that's the main reason I haven't. They always do them in the dead middle of summer, and I think I wanted to go. Well, last year was COVID. I don't think they did it, but 2 years ago, I think we were intent on going, and then it was going to be 107 that day, and I was like, no, thank you.
Outside and 107.
I don't want to be drinking beer in direct sunlight of 107 degrees. This is not worth it.
Yeah.
So, they need to shift beer festivals to spring or fall, guys. July 15th is not the time to be
do it indoors.
Or please, I want an air conditioned environment.
I guess the other thing I want to mention was beer festivals are fun because they are, most of the time the breweries are going to bring out their best stuff. So yeah, you can go to tap rooms. Tap rooms are good too. But man, they're going to bring out all the stops for the beer festivals. So it's a good way to try really cool stuff.
Fundamental Observation and Rusty Nail and many others. Yeah. You don't
even if you have full access to tap room, you're not getting those. So
yeah, it's definitely a good way to go.
Cool. And it's the reason we kind of want to do this episode is because beer festivals are starting up again.
Yes.
They're opening up and it's exciting and they're happening again.
We're getting excited. We're planning our next trip. Unfortunately, no Great American Beer Festival this year.
I know. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I get it, but they're trying to be safe. Play it safe.
Yeah. And it's a big event, so there could be a million factors, insurance might be too expensive or something like that. So
yeah, I
understand. But we'll definitely hit some other beer festivals up this year. So.
Yep, for sure. With all our great knowledge.
Yeah, and I'm sure, if we did this again in 5 years, we'd probably have a bunch more tips to add. So, speaking of which, if you want to give us any tips, you could always contact us at our email, which is contact.attenuation@gmail.com. Or if you would like to talk to us on Instagram, where we have over 40 followers, that is attenuation.podcast. On our Instagram. And I actually posted a picture, Steven.
I know.
So I think for every 7 pictures you post, I post 1.
Something like that.
So I really need to pick up the pace. I know we talked about this before, but I haven't taken any new pictures in my freshly cleaned crystal glass background. So maybe I'll get one of those on the gram this week.
I'll get on that.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna pour this. I was able to acquire it was a white whale. I didn't know it was a white whale, but I heard about this release from Jester King, the atrial rubicite.
Yes.
And it's their raspberry sour. And come to find out, it's the number 3 wild sour on Beer Advocate. Well, you know how I am at chasing peak experiences. So I'm like, well, I need that.
Yeah, and I had you buy me one, right?
Yep, I got one for you, buddy.
Yes. Did you drink yours already?
I haven't.
I'm surprised.
I know. I'm waiting. I'm not really sure what for. I want it to be an experience.
Wait till I'll come and we'll drink them together.
You want to wait? I don't know if I can wait that long.
All right, you can drink it for me. Let me know. I'll be excited to hear how it is, and then I'll even more greatly anticipate getting to drink mine.
Yeah, but that's going to be a good picture of that beer because the pictures I have seen of that beer, it's
it looks crazy. The color is
purple,
so
yeah.
intense. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, I'll be looking for that on Instagram, and then I'll know you cracked the bottle.
Maybe I'll wait for you.
Nah, do it. Just drink it. Life is short. I'll share mine with you. I'll give you one sip.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a great one. So, yeah, maybe we'll revisit this in 5 years.
That was a good trip down memory lane.
Yeah,
anyway.
Totally. Yeah, we'll revisit this one. We'll share more advanced. This is medium tips. Then we'll share advanced tips. So my name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade. That's Steven.
That's me.
And we are bidding you adieu, and we will see you next week for episode 17.
All right, cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Attenuation, a beer podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram or Facebook for more fun content. Catch you next week. Cheers!